When my stepson was 9 or 10, we sat down as a family to establish a few house rules, ways we all wanted to be together, commitments of a kind. Like we tell each other the truth, or we say thank you, or because I married an Eagle Scout, we do a good turn every day. But my favorite may be the independent contribution from the kid at the table. Be positive at the start of the day so you can have a good day. His father and I naturally asked him about this bit of wisdom. He explained that he had realized his mood in the morning influenced his mood all day. He told us, if I wake up in a bad mood, I have a bad day. So one day, I decided to be positive, and I had a good day. That's how I wake up now. Out of the mouths of babes, am I right? I mean, if a 9-year-old can figure this out and put it into everyday practice, I like to think there's hope for the rest of us. This one childlike mindset, be positive at the start of the day so you can have a good day, contains so much that is directly applicable for leaders. It is simple, yes, but it is also powerful. What my stepson realized almost 10 years ago is that we actually have a choice when it comes to our attitudes. While the day may bring unplanned challenges, we can wake up and choose how we will face it. Our moods and responses are within our control. Welcome to the Well Led Podcast. I'm your host, Kate Johnson, owner of 123 Limited. Over the last 2 months, we've explored how vulnerability and empathy are necessary skills for leaders who hope to demonstrate care for their employees. This month, we turn our attention to one more care-related competency, good humor. I'd like to share another story. About 20 years ago, my father fell off the roof of their home. He broke his arm, several ribs, and dislocated a shoulder. He also had a number of hairline fractures in his pelvis, and this, together with the forceful shock of the fall, meant he was unable to move. It took a while for my mother to be aware of the accident, and so Dad lay on the back deck for about half an hour. He later shared with me that during this time, he reached one clear conclusion. Whatever happens next, I have no choice but to go through it, so I might as well have a good attitude. Decide to be positive. Have a good attitude. These are 2 examples of the skill of good humor. These stories demonstrate that we have choice and that our choices play out through the course of a day and even impact how we experience the most challenging circumstances. Let me be clear. Good humor isn't about having a laugh. It is not forced positivity. Nor is it denying the fact of tough situations and hard feelings. Instead, it is an attitude that embraces the good with the bad, recognizing both the fact of human frailty and the power of our capabilities, and then adds all of it up to reach the conclusion that we can choose how we respond to our circumstances and to each other. Good humor chooses to respond with care, kindness, and sometimes even laughter. Humor is one of the many words whose meaning has drifted somewhat over time, and in modern English is now most commonly associated with comedy and laughter. But if we look further back, I mean way back, all the way to Hippocrates and his peers, people once believed that our bodies were filled with 4 liquids that were called humors. They believed health was a product of these humors, and early medical practice focused on bringing them into balance. So what were these humors? The sanguine humor, presented in blood, gave people the capacity to be extroverted and cheerful. The choleric humor came from yellow bile and was associated with passion and ambition. Black bile, the melancholic humor, represented sad or introspective moods and conditions. And the last, phlegmatic humor, from phlegm, made calm and relaxed attitudes possible. Ick factor aside, We can see how our moods and demeanor being tied to the physical body would make sense to ancient peoples. At least I can. Imagine a red-faced, angry patient, the flush reminiscent of blood, the energy or passion caused by the same function in the body. The doctor diagnoses an imbalance of the sanguine humor and calls for leeches. Now, I'm not saying this is good medicine, but it does give us a way to think about the connection between observable behaviors and internal moods. So rather than defining humor in terms of funny or ridiculous things, I want to take us back closer to this earlier meaning, which I believe will enable us to think of humor as a skill. Specifically, to adopt the perspective that choosing one mood or even response with intention will result in specific actions, making it an essential leadership skill. Because we're talking about choosing good humor here, I'm going to focus on the skill of choice making. We can start with a simple binary choice, an easy question. Will I choose to be in a good humor today, or in this meeting, or in this moment? Or will I choose another mood, one that's negative, pessimistic, antagonistic, or other? Positioning humor as an either-or choice is straightforward and efficient. And not every circumstance is that clear-cut. So another choice to offer yourself could be, what responses are available to me right now, which are appropriate to the situation, and which will I choose? Not only does this allow you to acknowledge the complexity of whatever you're facing, it's just challenging enough to engage your prefrontal cortex. If you're experiencing the kind of event that has triggered an amygdala response, it will help you step away from a fight or flight response and towards a more productive leadership decision. You see, when we face anything that our brains, the part of the brain we sometimes call the hind or lizard brain, the part that's always on and always on the lookout for danger, well, if that part perceives it as a threat, our beautiful, hardwired brains will trigger a number of physiological responses, all designed to keep you safe. The good news is that we almost never face lions, tigers, or bears at work, real threats to life and limb. The bad news? Our brains can't distinguish the difference between a bear attack and that email from your boss that seems to wreck your mood. But when we make the lizardy parts return control to the higher functions in there with slightly challenging questions, or mindful breathing, or even a brief pause, we make conscious choice possible again. We take charge of our humors. Other questions you can keep handy for guiding your choice of humor include, is this the way I would want my boss to respond to me, or the mood I would want to face when meeting with her? If I act on how I feel right now, will I look back on this interaction and feel proud of how I behaved? How would the most good-natured person I know act right now? What mood would make that easy for me? Does my mood and behavior right now really show my team that I care about them? If not, what do I need to change? Asking yourself questions like these is a skill that, like good humor, you can learn, develop, and refine. I want to be very clear here before we go further into this month devoted to good humor, that I am not an advocate for forced positivity. The skill of good humor is about mindfulness, intention, care, and the choices that support the behaviors we associate with each. Good humor is not the same as what has come to be known as toxic positivity. Toxic positivity tells us to avoid or suppress negative thoughts and emotions and to take an optimistic approach to every occasion. It has significant implications for individual mental health and team well-being and performance. Because toxic positivity actively denies negative emotions, it can result in dishonesty and broken trust. It undercuts credibility. It turns mistakes into cover-ups. It squashes vulnerability and hinders empathy. It prevents psychological safety. It is the antithesis of human leadership. All of this to say, being skilled at good humor is neither a demand nor a guarantee that you will always be in a great mood. In fact, this skill recognizes that hard things are hard and grants the ability to make choices. When leaders practice this skill and talk about it openly, they are not only being role models, they are sending the message that employees also have choice. They are empowered in the same way. This demonstrates care, and it engages people in co-creating the tone and feel of their work experience. Good humor also demonstrates care in that it serves as evidence of both awareness and mindfulness. It shows that you recognize and care about the influence you have, and that you have made the decision to be a present, pleasant, and authentic version of yourself. It is the skill of balancing your feelings, thoughts, and actions to create and support a healthy human environment for your team. The latest companion toolkit, Leading with Empathy, Practical Techniques for Sustainable Leadership, is now available. Visit the show notes for a link to request your copy. If this episode was useful, you can support the show by following or subscribing on your preferred podcast platform, or by sharing it with someone who's navigating similar leadership challenges. We'll be back next Tuesday with an episode featuring other voices sharing thoughts on good humor, and later this season we'll explore the role and importance of clarity in leadership. If you want updates on episodes, resources, and upcoming offerings from 123 Limited, you can join the newsletter at any time. Thanks for listening.